This will open the hearing on Senate Bill 224. Welcome, Senator Morigeau. Glad we could find you.
Yeah, I was just across the hallway too, in natural resources, so it wasn't too far to walk. Well, good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Senator Shane Morigeau. Last name is spelled M-O-R-I-G-E-A-U, and today I bring before you Senate Bill 224. And I've presented on this bill for several sessions now, and in the past we've tried to kind of collectively come up with different ways to approach this in unity really with this body. And so I think what we're proposing here today is a really good bill, and I hope you guys appreciate it and pass it out of committee. As I mentioned, in the past we've had, we have shared at length how one holiday on the second Monday in October is really not a day that's reflective or inclusive for all Montanans, and in many ways harmful to some people. And that said, our group has really recognized that our focus should be more in what we can control and more focused on what Indigenous Peoples Day is and what it means and what it really stands for. And so what is Indigenous Peoples Day Montana? It's a day that celebrates the ancestral lineage of all Montanans, and it's a day that is shaped and molded by each community and how that community wants to celebrate each other. And so it might look different from one community in eastern Montana or central Montana or western Montana, because our communities all look a little bit different based on where you live in the state of Montana. But the one unifying thing behind the Indigenous Peoples Day is it's a day that's really meant to celebrate everybody. It's supposed to be inclusive and something that celebrates all of us and our ancestral heritage. So one thing I'm really proud of is I'm really proud of this group of people that, many of these people that are sitting, all of these people, I think most of them are here for this bill. These people standing behind me or sitting behind me, they've worked really tirelessly over the past 2 years, and I can tell you we've met, monthly, sometimes bi-monthly, to talk about how we can make this holiday inclusive and something that represents and reflects everybody in Montana. And, we've been meeting since the last session pretty regularly, but I can tell you hundreds and hundreds of hours have went into, our efforts in celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day across the state of Montana. So I really want to say how much I appreciate all of them and all the efforts and the work and them taking the time out of their lives to travel over here during this, the dangerous roads and the bad weather today. So I will just end with this. We really want this to be something that we're proud of in Montana, that we can all celebrate together. And I think this bill is really a good way to approach it. It really gives people the choice of, instead of kind of approaching this and getting rid of something, we've approached this more as, hey, let's just give Montanans a choice in what they want to celebrate. And I think that's a really way to approach it, and we're hoping you guys agree. So with that, I'll hand it off to proponents and opponents.
Thank you, Morigeau. We'll move to proponents for Senate Bill 224.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee. For the record, my name is Lance Forstar, F-O-U-R-S-T-A-R, spelling my last name. With your permission, Chair Manzelik, may I distribute these letters?
Please do.
How daguchia makai chanchamagi abudeshana jamachano tabecha wakba in Wati. And the way I introduce myself according to our protocol is I introduce myself to you the way the Creator knows me, by my lodge name, by medicine lodge name. My name is Sheikh Saground, and it's probably the third name I've carried in my language. The other names were Tatangamani and Nacheto Netabiak. That was my great-grandfather's name, was Aani, and that's a tall man riding a gray horse. And my second name was Walking Buffalo. So the way we name the world is very important to us, and the days of our lives that we live in are very important as well. The Indigenous Peoples Day is a very important day for me personally because I've come up to the Capitol for the past 10 years. 10 years ago, I didn't think I would be the director of the Montana American Indian Caucus. And somehow my walk has led me here. And now I present to you a letter from the Montana American Indian Caucus dated February 5th, 2025, which states, Chair Manzella and committee, the Montana American Indian Caucus stands in strong support to Senate Bill 224.1, create Indigenous Peoples Day, sponsored by the great Senator Shane Morigeau. We support Indigenous Peoples Day and believe in celebrating everyone's ancestral lineage. We ask that we give Montanans the opportunity to celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day with us every year. The Montana American Indian Caucus urges the committee for a due pass. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, submitted by the Montana American Indian Caucus.
Thank you, Mr. Forstar. Next proponent.
I have a testimony from another individual. Do I hand that to you? Madam Chairman Zilla
Welcome.
and esteemed committee, thank you. My name is Marcia Small, S-M-A-L-L. I am Northern Cheyenne. I'm also called Odattavinava, O-T-A-T-A-V-E-E-N-O-V-A-E, and it means blue wings, or Blitupi woman. I am named after my great-great-grandmother. I am a co-founder of Indigenous Peoples Day Montana. So I've been coming here since 2015. And this is our 6th time, and we have a great crew. But each, as Senator Morigeau mentioned, we've learned how to collaborate and compromise and move toward this in a good way for all of us. So I have to read this, otherwise I'll rabbit hole and I'll take up too much time. I'm from a long line of ranchers, of people who do a hard day's work at work every day. I know what it's like to get up and greet the day with intent and drive every day. Every day. Every day I see our communities in conflict, a lot of conflict that doesn't need to be there. It wasn't always that way. In the old days, we all worked better together. These days, not so much so. I think it's because in the old days, we had the opportunity to sit down and visit each other, be more neighbors, create a nexus of knowing each other and the lands. I believe that the celebrations, with the implementation of Indigenous Peoples Day on the same day as Columbus Day, I believe the celebrations of these days in our communities will go a long way toward repatriating that civility, that relationship, that relationality. Let's come together as a state and honor all of our histories, all of our people, celebrate all of our ancestors' tendrils. I'm here to ask you to pass Senate Bill 224, which will recognize the second Monday of each October as a collective holiday, officially celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day and Columbus Day on the second Monday of each October. It shows respect, relevance, reciprocity, and responsibility. All of these 4 covenants I try to do on the daily. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Small. Welcome.
Good evening now, I guess. About my bedtime. Keaton Sunchild, Western Native Voice, S-U-N-C-H-I-L-D. Western Native Voice and our members were in strong support of Senate Bill 224, which would establish Indigenous Peoples Day here in Montana. This is a real meaningful step towards recognizing the rich cultural heritage, resilience, and contributions of Indigenous communities throughout our state. Montana is home to 12 tribal nations and a significant Indigenous population whose histories, traditions, and continuous presence are integral to Montana's shared identity. And Indigenous Peoples Day has an opportunity, it gives us an opportunity to celebrate and educate the broader public about the contributions and experiences of Native communities, which will foster greater understanding and reconciliation. This bill doesn't erase any history, but rather expands our recognition to include the voices and narratives that have been marginalized for a long time. And by formally acknowledging Indigenous Peoples Day, Montana has a chance to join a growing movement across the country that honors our ancestors. So with that, and for the compelling reasons you'll hear after me, I urge a do pass. Thank you.
Mr. Sunchild, next proponent.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Good afternoon, everyone. My Indian name is Eagle Woman. My English name is Shelley Fyant. Last name is spelled F-Y-A-N-T. I currently represent House District 91, which includes parts of Lake, Sanders, and Missoula counties. I'm here in support of Senate Bill 224. I believe this bill is brought to this committee in the spirit of inclusivity, which is a core value of Indigenous people. I realize that this may not be a shared value. I've seen in this citizen legislature this past month, and it's something that I've witnessed firsthand in prior legislative sessions as a former CSKT tribal council member when I came here to testify, also as a former CSKT tribal chairwoman, and today as House District 91 representative. In this 69th legislative session, I have witnessed many, many bills that exclude certain Montana citizens. Bills that divide an already divided country, and bills that seek to further divide Montana residents. Therein lies the difference between Native America and many, but not all, of non-natives. Myself, I come from a mixed heritage. My dad was Bitter Salish. My mom can trace her heritage to 7 different European countries. I grew up loving and respecting both sides of my family. I was blessed to travel to Europe and Russia when I was 14 years old on a people-to-people high school ambassador program. And I believe that experience changed the trajectory of my life. Since then, I've been put in positions, both professionally and personally, most of my life, to facilitate and promote understanding between people, many times related to cultural understanding. This bill will not exclude Columbus Day, but rather include Indigenous Peoples Day, a simple recognition of the first peoples of Montana and the first peoples of this land. This year's Indigenous delegation includes 12 members of tribal nations native to the state of Montana. It is no mistake that we were elected to serve in these bodies, the House and the Senate. We, like everyone in this room, are the answers to our ancestors' prayers. As people from sovereign nations, we have a huge task in promoting understanding of the cultural differences of our tribes, the people serving beside us, making laws that affect us all. Understand that we have unique cultural beliefs and differences between tribes as well. What we do have in common is our indigeneity. Please vote to simply respect our existence by voting for Senate Bill 224. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative, help me with your last name. Friant?
Fyant.
Fyant.
Yeah.
Fyant. Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Alyssa Snow. That's ALISSA-SNOW, and I'm here today representing the Blackfeet tribes, the Fort Belknap Indian community, and the Chippewa Cree tribes of Rocky Boy. Our state has a rich and diverse culture historically and presently. The Indigenous population in Montana is a permanent and ever-evolving presence. Like yourselves, we are always looking to the future for ourselves and generations to come. But in order to do so effectively and successfully, especially at the policy level, we have to acknowledge and respect our past. HB 224 is a foundational step in that direction. This effort will assist in improving state-tribal relations, prioritize respect as a foundation to build upon, and is a win for us all. Then, as we work together towards a future that promotes health, prosperity, and the pursuit of happiness, we can simultaneously recognize the past and also move forward into an era of reconciliation. For these reasons, please pass Senate Bill 224. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Snow.
Yes.
Further proponents? Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Chair. My name is Dana Bird, B-U-R-D. I am a member of the Blackfeet tribe. I came here on pretty much behalf of myself. I wanted to share a little bit of my culture. My husband's family comes from Chewing Black Bones, one of the last spiritual religious men in the Blackfeet tribe. My mom's line comes from Bear Chief. He went to DC and actually met, back in the old days, he went with war bonnet on. He was one of the first ones to go. His wife was one of the last women to go in a raid with him. And she was one of the few Blackfeet women that did that. I just think we come from so many adverse, we're all different. The Flathead, the Blackfeet, the Northern Cheyenne, we have so much unique differences, and we're always bundled in one. Indigenous People Day would also give us the opportunity to share our uniqueness with everybody. And I just think I would like to stand here one day and look back and see my kids recognize this day given to us. And just thank you guys. I hope you guys vote for a pass.
Thank you, Ms. Bird. Next proponent. Wow, great quote.
Good evening, Chair and the committee. My name is Belinda Bullshoe, B-U-L-L-S-H-O-E. I also come from the Blackfeet Nation, and I'm asking you guys to support the Bill 224. I am actually going to talk about when I'm one of the first Blackfeet member that opened up a major runway in New York. I don't know if you guys heard of me at one time, but when I hit the runway, I signified my culture on the runway. And when I finished the runway that evening, I was actually invited to Paris. And when I got asked, how did I come up with my designs, I told them it was my grandmother that showed me. When they asked me, where's your degree at? What degree do you have? What degree do you hold with your fashion? And I told them I don't have a degree. I had my grandmother was my teacher. I said, she's the one that taught me how to sew. I said, so if you're asking about a degree or whatever I have, you'd have seen them on the runway this evening. But the reason why I told you that is it signifies my culture in a long way. It signified when I was younger, watching my grandmother sew, and years later, I ended up becoming her best student, one of her best students. And when somebody came and told me, Belinda, did you know that you're like one of the first Native Americans to open up a major runway in New York? And I was like, no, I didn't know that. And they said, well, yeah, we didn't know that either, but we just realized that just now. But on the other hand of my culture, it's very important for me, just like the people that talked about it before. I'm part of the two highest societies in the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Buffalo Women's Society and the Ixkenai Society, Horns Society. So when we talk about you guys to help support this bill, it's not only going to signify what we all stand here to tell you guys about. It signifies of who we are and what I enjoy representing our nation and our people. And when people ask me, so you come from Montana? Why do you guys, what's so much of a small state do you love about? What I love about is the environment, the Rocky Mountains, we have the scenic back there. So when I was in Paris, they said, Montana's small, Belinda, we just seen it. And I said, but that's my homeland. That's where I was born into. That's where my ancestors came from. That's where I grew up on. We have the Rocky Mountains in our backyard. And I said, and I'm proud of where I come from. And they were like, oh, well, we just wanted to know that. But we just seen it was a small state close to Canada. And I said, well, yeah, you're like probably about 40 miles away from Canada. But again, I ask you guys to support 224 because it gives me pride to go out in there to the fashion world, even though it's not really a big thing. But it's a big thing for me because Native American women, as me, hit the boundaries of the fashion world. And now, today, there's more Native American women, men that are hitting fashion, but they put their culture on the runway just like I did and stuff. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bullshoe. And I love your coat.
Well, thank you.
Next proponent of SB 224.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ben Catton, spelled C-A-T-T-O-N. I represent Montana Environmental Information Center, and we strongly support this bill for many of the reasons already highlighted by other proponents. As a born and raised Montanan, I love all of the points being made here, but I loved hearing the idea of shared identity that Mr. Sunchild mentioned. And I think that it's important to note that dozens of states have already done the same and recognized Indigenous Peoples Day, and Montana should really be leading that movement. And I think that the composition of our state with 7 reservations and 12 tribes, we should be at the front of that saying, yes, this is something we should celebrate. MEIC recognizes that Indigenous people are the original stewards of this land, and we admire and seek to learn from the stewardship customs that are characteristic to Indigenous cultures across the state. Indigenous peoples across Montana have a long, rich history in this place, and establishing Indigenous Peoples Day is a meaningful step towards celebrating their resilience, histories, and cultures. So please support this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Canton. Further proponents?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Caroline Canarios, C-A-N-A-R-I-O-S, on behalf of Northern Plains Resource Council. And I will keep it brief, and I just have this wonderful, beautiful handout we put together. So if I could pass that out with your permission,
please,
Madam
Ms.
Chair.
Canarios.
We asked for a due pass on Senate Bill 224. Thank you.
Thank you. Next proponent?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Natalie Wright, that's spelled W-R-I-G-H-T, and I am here on behalf of the Montana Conservation Voters Education Fund. We stand in strong support of Senate Bill 224. Recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day as an official holiday is about honoring Montana's rich heritage and uplifting people who are so deeply intertwined with the history and identity of our great state. Many of the towns and cities we hail from bear names of Indigenous origin, and the halls of this capital memorialize Indigenous stories and leaders who sacrificed for the land we stand on today. Montanans take pride in preserving the legacies of our ancestors who built our communities, and this holiday is about doing just that. It's about paying our respects to people who have been taking care of this place we call home for thousands and thousands of years. But this is not just about the past. As you've heard from previous proponents, Montana is home to 12 federally recognized tribes residing on 7 reservations across our state. Montana has one of the highest percentages of Indigenous people out of all the states in this country. Indigenous people are our families, our neighbors, our coworkers, our veterans, our legislators. Indigenous communities fight for this country at the highest per capita rate of any other group, might I add. They contribute to our economy and work hard to preserve their respective cultures and the lands on which they reside. Recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day is not about erasing history, it's about enriching it. It's about strengthening the bonds of our communities acknowledging our shared heritage, and ensuring that all who shaped Montana and who serve, lead, and strengthen our communities, not just in the history books, but inside and outside of these walls today, are paid the respect that they have earned. And for those reasons, I respectfully ask that you do pass Senate Bill 224. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Further proponents?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Linda Greisen. That's spelled G-R-Y-C-Z-A-N, or something close. My grandmother called us grichan, which means buckwheat in Polish, as did, some of you remember, Senator Trapila, who would always speak to me in Polish in these hallways. In 1960, when I was 7 years old, I learned that in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue and found this land for me and you. And I thought, I was so proud. He did this for me and for Mrs. Beeson's second grade class. But they didn't tell us the whole story. They left out a whole lot, and no one asked the Indigenous kids what they thought. Now we're learning, and we can undo much damage. We should all celebrate our people, whoever we are. And Senate Bill 224 would help us do that. I respectfully urge a do pass on Senate Bill 224. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grayson. Next proponent.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Dee Dee Taylor, T-A-Y-L-O-R. Oh, thank you. Dee Dee Taylor, T-A-Y-L-O-R, and I've lived in Bozeman for 32 years. I'm an art historian, a retired professor, and a founder of an arts nonprofit that uses public arts to build bridges between communities. I've advocated for the establishment of Indigenous Peoples Day for a decade with Marcia and the other wonderful crew we have who really reach across the state. And I note through what I've learned that we are all Indigenous to somewhere. My heritage is Scottish and English, and I've come to appreciate my own ancestors and homelands more now as others around me who I know have looked back to their own heritage. And it really is a way that we can learn more, as others have said, of the importance of stewardship of the land as well as knowing our own histories. So it's in this spirit that I asked the committee to pass Senate Bill 224 to combine the holiday of Indigenous Peoples Day with that of Columbus Day. Since IPD began to be celebrated in Bozeman enthusiastically with art and ceremony, it has brought so many community members of all backgrounds to share their voices in this process, to learn more about themselves, about their neighbors, and about people they share the state with. As an art professional, I see an increasing and exciting interest in contemporary Native American arts and education, which a statewide Indigenous Peoples Day combined with Columbus Day will encourage. Joining a celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day with Columbus Day is important in its symbolism and in its potential for education, for example. We value holidays when they serve a purpose. Independence Day reinforces our founding values. Labor Day, the value of workers. Veterans Day, to remember our sacrifices, and so on. When values evolve to benefit society and its peoples, as they are today, holidays can change too. Indigenous Peoples Day and Columbus Day would mean learning from and celebrating all of our cultures. I'm very excited about the prospect of that. So I encourage you to move on this bill out of committee, and we hope to pass it into law. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Further proponents?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Peter Dudley, spelled D-U-D-L-E-Y, here representing Montana Audubon. We're a statewide bird conservation organization, and I'll keep it brief. We would just like to express deep gratitude for the contributions that Indigenous peoples, tribes, tribal wildlife departments, tribal colleges, and Indigenous-led organizations have made to protect and conserve Montana's wildlife and ecosystems. Would love to echo many of the points brought up by previous testimony, and we believe this bill is a great way to recognize those contributions that I mentioned. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley. Further proponents?
Madam Chair, members of the Senate Administration Committee, my name is Carson Taylor, Taylor. I'm a retired mayor and city commissioner from the city of Bozeman, and I'd like to share with you a little bit of our experience with Indigenous Peoples Day. When I was mayor in 2016, I issued a proclamation declaring the second Monday in October to be Indigenous Peoples Day. I did this after a lot of meetings with people from the Native American community and people from Montana State University. We decided that the purpose of the day would be to celebrate all Indigenous peoples, but also to educate ourselves about local Indigenous cultures. It began with a presentation to the City Commission on each Indigenous Peoples Day. It evolved into a round dance at Montana State University, plus the presentation. And since then, over the years, the event has evolved further. Now pretty much we climb up Pete's Hill, which is a hill that overlooks the city of Bozeman. And we don't climb, we walk up. It's not I'm sorry, I didn't make it sound like it's a trek. No, it's a hiking trail. Have speakers and talk about what it means to be Indigenous to somewhere in the world. Often we have a teepee, we do a round dance, and other presentations. At this point, there's hundreds of people that attend Indigenous Peoples Day, even in the worst weather, which sometimes happens. Another part of the evolution is the recognition that everyone is Indigenous to somewhere. And to that end, we have successfully encouraged residents with diverse backgrounds to speak of their roots. Last year, there was a gentleman with Irish roots who ended up talking about sort of that culture and what that meant to him, and ended up speaking in ancient Irish, Gaelic, or whatever to us. And that was pretty cool. It got me to look into my roots, and there's a little bit of Español in my roots, so yo puedo hablar un poquito de Español también. But the experience with the day has been that it's helped to draw our community closer. We've learned a lot from the celebration and the education, and come closer just by planning the events together. We've now celebrated Indigenous Peoples Day 8 times, and it's worked well enough that the city changed my proclamation into an ordinance so that it's done every Indigenous Peoples Day since 2022 under the ordinance. I think that if Indigenous Peoples Day were made a state holiday along with Columbus Day, I would expect that many communities across the state would take advantage of this opportunity to increase education and celebration of all cultures to the benefit of the whole community. This would then benefit the entire state, as we could reach higher levels of understanding and kinship with one another. So I urge you to pass on this legislation. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Further proponents for Senate Bill 224. Further proponents. Seeing none in the room, Mr. Larson, we have some online.
Yeah, we have a bit of a list here. So, Madam Chair, we'll start with Edward Barta.
Okay, Mr. Barta, welcome.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Edward Barta, that's spelled B-A-R-T-A. I am the chair of Northern Plains Resource Council, and I speak here today in support of Senate Bill 224 on behalf of the organization. Northern Plains believes that celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day and Columbus Day as dual holidays creates an opportunity to celebrate our shared histories and to make this holiday something that belongs to all Montanans. We are all Indigenous to somewhere, and all of our stories have a role to play in making Montana what it is today. Let's celebrate that. For me personally, I was born and raised in Montana and have spent most of my 75 years living in small towns and cities throughout the state. Perhaps my first experience with Indigenous peoples took place in the big city of Edgar, Montana, where I saw the Edgar Wildcats win the 1966 state Class C basketball team with mostly a native team. Moving over to the western part of the state and living in Phillipsburg, I regularly visited Butte and had the great privilege of interacting with Irish culture while visiting the M&M bar and celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Way up in the northeastern part of the state, while living in Westby and spending time on the High Line, I had many opportunities to see the influence of Scandinavian culture, of which eating lutefisk was something I mostly avoided doing. These are just a few of my experiences with the varied population of people who come from or have settled in Montana. I think most Montanans have had similar experiences and connections. I believe that these experiences have given us a better awareness and appreciation of Montana's past and present. In short, Montana's history and culture is an amalgamation of many Indigenous peoples, some of whom have lived here since ancient history and some of whom are more recent arrivals. They all have contributed and continue to contribute to Montana's story. I think it is important that we celebrate this fact. Creating a dual holiday would give us the opportunity to understand each other better as neighbors and to celebrate our differences as well as what we have in common. Therefore, I urge you to support Senate Bill 224. Thank you for giving me the time to share my messages, and thank you all for your good work as state legislators.
Thank you, Mr. Barta. Next is Tracy Garfield. Mr. Larson?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tracy Garfield. I am a citizen of the Fort Peck Tribes, and I too represent Western Native Voice and its over 13,000 members who live in Montana. I am here to share my experience and support for SB 224. On October 14th of 2024, I had the privilege of helping organize Indigenous Peoples Day celebrations all across Montana. One of the most impactful events took place in Billings, where hundreds of people came together to honor the rich histories and cultures of all the peoples who have shaped that area. The day began with the history walk led by Indigenous artist Ben Pease, exploring the stories of Billings and the many diverse communities who have called it home, and I learned a lot about all of the groups that live there. This was followed by a gathering on the Rims where Billings Mayor Bill Cole and other leaders shared reflections on the importance of honoring our shared histories. He too is considering passing a special day in Billings to celebrate. Workshops and demonstrations held throughout the day highlighted cultural connections and traditions, including a shared meal blending Turkish and Native American flavors. The evening concluded with a standing room only fashion show and comedy performance. Over 400 people, I might add, celebrating Indigenous talent and creativity. The day's events were a meaningful reminder of how shared histories and cultural appreciation can bring people together in understanding and celebration. In addition to Billings, communities in Glendive, Missoula, Bozeman, Butte, and Great Falls also held large celebrations that year. While this year primarily focused on Native American heritage, I made efforts in 2024 to reach out to other ethnic groups, and I was thrilled to see their interest and enthusiasm in participating in Indigenous Peoples Day in 2025. So I was really excited about that. These celebrations are growing, and I truly believe they will continue to expand each year. They offer a unique opportunity for communities to come together, not only to celebrate traditional knowledge, music, and culture of Native Americans, but for all peoples who live here and want to share their heritage. Indigenous Peoples Day is about the shared love we all have for Montana and all its peoples. We all call this beautiful place home, and Indigenous Peoples Day provides a chance for us to learn from one another, celebrate our state's incredible and diverse cultural histories, but most importantly, foster a deeper appreciation for the connections we all share, both with the land and with each other. Thank you, and I recommend it do pass.
Thank you, Ms. Garfield. Guests, I'll remind you that I've asked everyone to try to limit their testimony to approximately 2 minutes. So please keep that in mind as you testify. Next, we have Sydney Berry. Welcome.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sydney Berry. That's spelled B-A-R-R-Y. And I'm with the Montana Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. We strongly support SB 224 and thank the sponsor for his continued efforts to have Indigenous Peoples Day recognized in Montana and all those here today for their advocacy. You have heard compelling testimony, so I will just say that we hope that the committee recognizes the importance of honoring the Indigenous peoples of Montana and the nation as a whole by voting yes on SB 224. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Berry, and thank you for being so concise. Next, we have Zuri Marino. Mr. Larson, is that correct?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Good evening, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Zuri Moreno, M-O-R-E-N-O. I'm the State Legislative Director with Ford, Montana, and we are in strong support of Senate Bill 224. We first want to thank the sponsor for his tireless advocacy to get this piece of legislation passed. And I will be brief and just say that at its core, Indigenous Peoples Day aims to celebrate and honor the past, present, and futures of Native peoples. And most importantly, the day is about moving beyond the narrative of oppression, and it is about honoring the histories, cultures, and contributions of contemporary Native peoples. Please vote yes for Senate Bill 224.
Thank you, Ms. Marino. And again, thank you for being concise. Next, we have Caitlin Cromwell. Welcome. Caitlin?
Good. Madam Chair. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Perfect. Evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Caitlin Cromwell. That's C-R-O-M-W-E-L-L. I live in Billings, and I'm with Northern Plains Resource Council. You've heard from a couple of Northern Plains folks already. So in the interest of keeping this brief, I'll just share that we're really pleased to support Senate Bill 224. We see the creation of a dual holiday involving both Indigenous Peoples Day and Columbus Day as an opportunity to celebrate the many different histories and backgrounds that we all bring to the table here in Montana. For me personally, that history is Irish American. My family came to the US from Ireland 3 generations ago. I'm really proud of that heritage, but I also appreciate the chance to learn more about the histories and backgrounds of my Montana neighbors, and think that sharing where we each come from and what brought us here gives us a chance to understand each other better and be better neighbors. We would love to see Montana follow in the footsteps of states like Nebraska and South Dakota in formally recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day and celebrating it alongside Columbus Day. Both are really important parts of our history, and we think we just stand to gain by celebrating and recognizing both of them. So urge a do pass, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Cromwell. Next is Robin Turner.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Robin Turner. My name is spelled R-O-B-I-N-T-U-R-N-E-R, and I am here on behalf of Legal Voice, and we are in support of Senate Bill 224. So with deep respect for the generosity and effort of all the proponents and communities involved in this bill, we urge a do pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Next, we have Crystal Allegra. I probably butchered your last name.
No, yeah, you were pretty good, pretty close. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Crystal Allegria, and it is spelled A-L-E-G-R-I-A. This is the 5th time I've come before a committee in this legislature asking for you to vote yes on establishing Indigenous Peoples Day in Montana. I was here in 2017, 2019, 2021, 2023, and I almost made it there today in 2025, but the snow kept me away. But I would love to be there. So I encourage you to say yes to Indigenous Peoples Day. 4 times you have said no. I hope this is the time you reconsider and vote yes. I'm really excited to establish a day where all Indigenous people are honored and we can all collectively celebrate indigeneity, both the people that have stewarded this land for time immemorial to those who tend it today, because we are all Indigenous to somewhere. I'm Indigenous and all of you in that room are Indigenous. My people come from Austria, Germany, and England, and I am proud to honor my Indigenous roots and will be happy to have a day where I can focus on my ancestors who came to this country in the 1870s, settling in Wisconsin and Iowa, and eventually to Montana. Indigenous Peoples Day is a time to celebrate our ancestral heritage, whatever that may be. So let's follow the lead of many other states who have already established Indigenous Peoples Day, including South Dakota, Oregon, Vermont, North Carolina, Hawaii, Alaska, and many others. And let's come together as a state to recognize and validate our collective Indigenous histories. By supporting Senate Bill 224 to establish Indigenous Peoples Day alongside Columbus Day, we are coming together as a community to recognize each other, really, and to celebrate our collective heritage. Thank you, and I encourage you to say yes to SB 224 this time. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Alegria. Any further proponents online, Mr. Larson, that I'm missing?
Yes, Jacob Zimmer, Madam Chair.
Okay, welcome, Mr. Zimmer.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. This is Mr. Jacob Zimmer, Tommy McCloney and Achillesh and Alan Gallatin. Is Aaron Iad Mushin Shear. Tommy Glowich Gwelgadev and Tasha Gohana Benshaw. My name is Jacob Zimmer, spelled Z-I-M-M-E-R-E-R, and I'm a Montanan from the Gallatin Valley. I'm a PhD student in Indigenous and Rural Health at Montana State University. It's very good to be with you today. My ancestors are from Ireland, and I was speaking Gwelga, the Irish language. I support recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day in Montana as a day to celebrate all of our ancestors and their stories. Funny enough, I actually didn't start learning the Irish language in Ireland. I began right here in Montana with language immersions in Butte, weekly classes in Helena, and casual practice with fellow learners in Bozeman. I feel my ancestors right here with me. I actually just returned from a month back in Ireland, visiting with family and friends. The land there is rich with ancient stories, place names, language, and traditions. Many people feel that they need to go to a place like Ireland to experience these things, but my relationships with people Indigenous to Montana have shown me that this place has just as many layers of beautiful stories. Those relationships have greatly enhanced my love and appreciation for this place I have the honor to call home. My hope is that Indigenous Peoples Day can further highlight the cultural richness and depth that is all around us right here in Montana. On that day, we can be reminded to come together as Montanans and enliven each other with beautiful stories of our ancestors. I ask you to please support Senate Bill 224 to establish Indigenous Peoples Day. I'll give 1,000 thank yous to you all.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmer. Any further proponents, Mr. Larson?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
We have one more, I'm sorry.
Oh?
Madam Chair, Sharon Kicking Woman.
Welcome, Ms. Kicking Woman.
Chair, members of the committee, my name is Sharon Kicking Woman, spelled Kickingwoman, and I'm here representing the American Civil Liberties Union of Montana, based in Missoula. I'm also a proud member of the Ani and Blackfeet Nations. We urge a due pass on SB 224, establishing Indigenous Peoples Day in Montana. As someone born and raised here in Montana, there's a lot of stuff I love about our state, and especially as an Indigenous person, I'm proud of the lasting history since time immemorial of my ancestors to make this place home. I believe this history is part of the very fabric of our state and worthy of recognition. As many have mentioned, there's a rich and unique legacy of Indigenous people in Montana who have stewarded these lands and made it possible for all of us to call Montana home. It has always been a bipartisan tradition to recognize the unique contributions of Indigenous people, which can be evidenced in our own Constitution, where we are the only state that recognizes the distinct cultural heritage of American Indians. Following that tradition, I ask that Montana continue this practice by acknowledging Indigenous Peoples Day. It not only celebrates and honors Native people past and presently, but it reminds us of an Indigenous future that is welcome in our state. Alongside the growing movement across the country, and more importantly across our state, we urge a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kicking Woman. Any further proponents online? I think we got them all that time. Oh, no?
One more, Madam Chair.
Where did he go? There he is. Mr. Tom, is
Can
that
you
your,
hear me?
is that your last name, sir?
I know it's hard. Mexican Cheyenne.
Uh-huh.
MEXICANCHEYENNE.
And that is your last name?
That is my last name.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Northern Cheyenne. I live on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation in Lame Deer. I'm also a member of the Northern Plains Resource Council. And also, I want to support the Indigenous Peoples Day as part of Columbus Day, a day of celebration for all the original inhabitants and also the settlers who homesteaded in this region, and to be proud of their ancestry and persistence to stay and call this home. A large, diverse population of Indigenous people are living here in what is now known as Montana and have inhabited this region for thousands of years and into the present day. The original inhabitants of this land, Native people, roamed freely to hunt, gather, and battle other tribes for territory that we considered our homeland. Indigenous tribes value their spiritual connection to the land, rich culture, traditions, and beliefs. And being committed to understanding the history of the land we now call home, we need to broaden and deepen our understanding of the history of Montana in such an authentic, unique, and evocative way. The dual holiday would help us understand the original inhabitants' history of this land, as well as the history of the first settlers who homesteaded Montana, where they traveled from across the ocean, traveling thousands of miles west by wagon to homestead in a new land. This holiday would help us learn about each other. I want to learn about the trials and tribulations they faced, your ancestors, as they stayed and settled in the place they now call home, Montana. As Montanans, we all have a shared proud history of our ancestors' journeys and how they valued the land. In the spirit of all history, it is to support Indigenous Peoples Day by bringing our minds and our hearts together to share our proud history is what Montana is about. Please support Indigenous Peoples Day in conjunction with Columbus Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mexican Cheyenne. I'm just going to let you tell me, Mr. Larson.
I think we're done, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so that was the proponents on the bill. Do we have any opponents to the bill? We've been light on opponents all day. That's a good thing. Any opponents online, Mr. Larson? I'm not seeing any hands raised.
There are not, Madam Chair.
Okay. Informational witnesses? Any informational witnesses in the room or online?
None online, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Okay, questions from the committee? Vice Chair McCamey.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, I'm going to call on the sponsor, please. He hasn't been up for a while.
Senator Morigeau.
I thought we were done when we didn't have opponents, Madam Chair, but.
I'm not an opponent. I'm not an opponent. No. No, just a point of clarification. I was just reading the bill. I just wanted to have clarity because Madam Chair and Senator Morigeau, a couple of just little tiny things on line number 21. I don't know if we need to change that to President's Day because it's supposed to be all presidents now. Just saying. Okay, that's a minor thing. The other thing is I wanted to point out just for clarity too that this is, it's not taking the place or bumping off anything in the way of, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Senator McCamey, if certainly it's once it becomes a committee's bill and you guys think, there's something that you want to change, or obviously the title might restrict the first change you have, but I guess you could always change the title to be able to fit it. Yeah, but yeah, and then to your second question, you're right. Yeah, it doesn't change, take away any other holiday or change anything else. It just literally adds Indigenous Peoples Day to that particular day.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further questions? So Vice Chair McCamey brought up an interesting point, Senator Morigeau, that, and I'm just going to ask you if you happen to stumble upon the history in your studies as far as, was Lincoln and Washington's birthdays established as a holiday together when they were established? Do you happen to know? And then somewhere down the line it became President's Day? Is that?
I'm being told that's correct. Can I?
You can.
Refer that to?
My birthday was February 22nd, which was Washington's birthday.
That's right. Okay, okay. So Lincoln and Washington's birthday were established as a holiday.
Lincoln's birthday was originally the 12th. And so then I don't know which year it was, they combined them and made it all President's Day. But I kind of take affront to that because I like 22nd and just having that day with us. Yeah.
But I was just kind of looking for the fact that there is some precedent for combining holidays, I guess.
Madam Chair, that's a really good point. Actually, we'll add that to our talking points in the future.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Any further questions from the committee? No further questions from the committee? I don't see that I have any further questions. So, Senator Morigeau, would you like to close on your bill?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. And, you know, I think some really good points were made today. And, you know, I think, you know, you heard reciprocity, respect, and unity. And I think that's, you know, the beautiful thing about this group and what we've been doing is we've been actually genuinely trying to find ways to make this day more inclusive. And you know, as, you know, we heard from one of the proponents, you know, through our work together, we've actually identified ways to be able to learn more about each other, promote that in a way that we actually, you know, practice what we preach and actually actively, you know, including and wanting to learn about each other's culture. And so, you know, for example, this year, there was events all across the state, and, you know, different places we're talking about having bagpipers and, you know, doing that kind of stuff. And so, you know, it started with a strong Native presence, and in some communities it might still have, you know, a strong Native presence in the celebrations that happen, but in other communities it looks a little bit different, right? It looks like, we want it to look like the communities where people are celebrating across Montana. And so we've actively been trying to, you know, if you went and researched and looked at the work we're doing across the state, you can see our messaging is what we're messaging with you today, right? Like we're actually trying to promote that in a way that is unifying. It is getting out there and learning about each other's heritage. You know, my daughter is Native, Belizean, and Jewish. And so, you know, we're going to have a lot of interesting, you know, diverse history to talk about in our family, right? And so, but that's what it's about. Like Montana really is this melting pot of people and a lot of cultures from all over the world. You know, you go and look at Butte or different communities, it looks different, and we think we should be celebrating that. And we think this is the right way to do it. This is a good way to kind of move, you know, past, you know, we've been here, I think 5 times now, and I've been here numerous times, and through even that work, we've learned, we've taken that learning experience and we've actually actively applied it to the work we do and the celebrations that we have across the state. And, you know, it was nice to hear all these different perspectives of people's backgrounds and cultures, and I think that's what it's about. You know, yeah, we're going to have someone from Salish who, you know, is going to have their perspectives. We'll have someone who, what's fresh in their mind and what matters to them is promoting, you know, their design work, their culture and values through their design work, right? Like, that's what it's really all about. And Montana, is different than the other states, right? A lot of states have Indigenous Peoples Day. In the different states, it looks different. And so we're trying to find a way to make it Montana-centric and have it be what represents Montana. So with that, I'd ask for a due pass and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Senator Morigeau. This concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 224.